Imagine waking one morning, feeling the subtle shifts in your body, hips tighter, balance a little more fragile, strength not quite where it once was. For those of us over 50, movement begins to whisper its limitations. Yet within this whisper lies profound opportunity. The chance to honor our bodies, refine our strength, and move not just with effort, but with intelligence. Today, I want to explore why, for our glutes, for carefully chosen exercises can offer more than the conventional squats many of us have relied on for decades. Imagine our bodies not as static machines, but as living archives of movement, shaped over decades by countless small choices, repetitive patterns, and the invisible pressures of gravity and time. For those of us over 50, these subtle shifts are particularly evident in the gluteal region, a group of muscles that silently orchestrate balance, posture, and locomotion. We have relied on squats for years, often believing that this single exercise could maintain strength and stability, yet as science reveals, the aging body responds differently than it once did. The glutes, like any complex system, do not thrive under uniform stress alone. They respond to nuanced, deliberate engagement that respects both muscular structure and joint integrity. Evolution designed our hips and pelvis for multidimensional movement, for the rhythm of walking, running, climbing, and twisting. When we confine ourselves to repetitive sagittal plane motions like squats, we limit the full expression of these muscles' capacity, leaving fibers understimulated and functional potential unrealized. Over time, the body signals these limitations subtly: a slight wobble descending stairs, a faint fatigue when rising from a low chair, a twinge that whispers, "Pay attention." By listening to these signals, we begin to see the importance of exercises that invite the glutes to work in isolation, to fire more completely, and to reinforce connections with surrounding stabilizers. This approach acknowledges that muscle strength is inseparable from skeletal alignment, joint health, and neural coordination. Scientific studies employing electromyography have shown that the gluteus maximus and medius, when targeted correctly, can be activated far more effectively through movements that emphasize hip extension and abduction rather than vertical knee flexion under heavy load. Such exercises honor the evolutionary blueprint of our body, allowing the glutes to perform their essential role in propulsion, balance, and upright posture without overloading the knees or lumbar spine. Aging should not be a negotiation with limitation, but a thoughtful recalibration of strategy, a recognition that the exercises we once relied on may no longer serve us optimally. By reframing our approach, we cultivate strength that is resilient and intelligent rather than brute and uniform. The body, in turn, responds with subtle improvements: better posture, more effortless balance, and the quiet assurance that comes from knowing the muscles that underpin our mobility are engaged fully and safely. This scientific understanding intersects with a philosophical observation that awareness of our own physical design can transform how we move, guiding us toward practices that respect both the mechanics and the integrity of our bodies. Strength, when informed by observation and evidence, becomes a form of care, an exercise in listening as much as in contracting. The glutes, often overlooked, demand this attention, and in doing so they reveal a truth about the broader aging process: that we can grow stronger not by repeating old patterns blindly, but by cultivating precision, mindfulness, and respect for the intricate design that has carried us through decades of motion. The adaptation of the body is not merely biological, it is a dialogue between what we wish to achieve and what the body is prepared to sustain, and choosing exercises that target the glutes intelligently allows us to extend both function and vitality far beyond what simple habit alone would permit, offering a model of movement that is both scientifically grounded and deeply human. The gluteal muscles are remarkable not only for their size but for the complexity of their function, and understanding their activation is a window into the nuanced intelligence of the human body. While squats engage the glutes to a degree, they often recruit multiple muscle groups simultaneously, dispersing the stimulus and limiting the depth of activation in the glute fibers themselves. Electromyography studies reveal that exercises like hip thrusts, glute bridges, clamshells, and quadruped kickbacks stimulate both the gluteus maximus and gluteus medius more directly, engaging the fibers in patterns that mirror natural functional movements rather than simplified gym analogs. This is significant because as we age, there is a preferential atrophy of type 2 muscle fibers, which are crucial for generating power, stabilizing the hips, and maintaining balance during sudden or complex movements. When exercises are precise and targeted, they help preserve these fibers, creating a foundation of strength that extends into daily life activities, from climbing stairs to rising from chairs to maintaining equilibrium during uneven terrain. Precision in movement becomes an act of both science and mindfulness, an intentional dialogue between the nervous system and the musculoskeletal architecture, in which each contraction is measured, purposeful, and complete. The glutes are not simply engines for lifting, they are central hubs in the kinetic chain, influencing posture, spinal alignment, and hip mobility. When they are recruited effectively, other muscles, such as the hamstrings and lower back stabilizers, can function synergistically rather than compensating for weakness. This synergy is often lost in traditional squat routines, where knee and quadriceps dominance can mask insufficient glute activation, leaving the body less resilient to fatigue and stress. By emphasizing exercises that isolate and emphasize glute engagement, we invite the muscles to perform optimally, reinforcing neural pathways that coordinate movement with balance and stability. The benefits extend beyond strength alone. They touch upon proprioception, the body's innate sense of position and motion, which becomes increasingly vital with age. Engaging the glutes through deliberate, precise movements teaches the nervous system to integrate muscular contraction with spatial awareness, improving gait, reducing the risk of falls, and cultivating a fluidity of motion that is often lost when compensatory patterns dominate. This approach challenges the conventional notion that bigger or heavier lifts automatically translate to better outcomes, reframing strength as an intelligent application of force, informed by an understanding of anatomy and physiology. There is a philosophical resonance here as well. The body responds not to habit alone, but to attentive practice, to movements chosen with understanding rather than convention. The gluteal complex becomes a laboratory for observation, experimentation, and adaptation, revealing how targeted engagement can enhance both function and longevity. Every lift, every contraction, becomes a conversation with the body, asking it to awaken fibers that have grown quiet and reminding the nervous system of pathways that maintain stability. In doing so, we cultivate a form of strength that is nuanced, precise, and adaptable, an embodiment of the principle that optimal function arises not from brute repetition but from thoughtful, intentional, and scientifically guided activation of the muscles that carry us through life. Our joints are the silent witnesses of our lives, absorbing decades of movement, tension, and subtle misalignment, and as we age, their resilience naturally diminishes. The knees, hips, and lumbar spine bear not only the weight of our bodies but the accumulated stresses of years of repetitive motion, and exercises that disregard these limits can accelerate wear in ways that are often imperceptible until discomfort or injury arises. Squats, while familiar and effective for general strength, impose compressive forces across the knees and lower back that may be increasingly risky after 50, particularly when mobility or muscle balance is compromised. By contrast, targeted glute exercises such as hip thrusts, bridges, clamshells, and quadruped kickbacks distribute forces more evenly and isolate the glutes in patterns that minimize joint strain while still providing significant muscular stimulus. These movements respect the structural integrity of the body, acknowledging that longevity in movement depends not only on strength but also on preserving the tissues and articulations that enable it. Strength without joint protection is ultimately fragile, whereas carefully designed glute activation supports both muscular development and skeletal health, reinforcing stability in the hips and pelvis while reducing compensatory tension in surrounding structures. The gluteus medius and maximus are central to hip stabilization, and when they are strengthened with precision, they help maintain proper alignment during everyday activities, from walking on uneven surfaces to bending, lifting, and climbing stairs. This stabilization reduces the risk of falls and overuse injuries, creating a foundation of support that the body can rely on even as other systems begin to age. From a physiological perspective, joint preservation is as much about controlling movement patterns as it is about resisting load. Exercises that isolate the glutes allow for controlled, deliberate contraction without forcing the knees or spine into extreme angles or excessive compression. In this way, glute-focused training becomes an act of structural intelligence, teaching the body to generate power safely and efficiently, rather than forcing movement through brute effort. Over time, this approach enhances both confidence and capability, allowing older adults to engage in functional tasks with less apprehension and more fluidity. There is also a neurological component. Targeted, low-impact exercises reinforce proprioceptive feedback, helping the brain interpret joint position, muscular tension, and balance in real time. As a result, the nervous system becomes more adept at coordinating movement while protecting delicate structures, further reducing the risk of strain or injury. This interplay between muscle activation and joint integrity demonstrates that strength is not merely a measure of force but an emergent property of well-balanced systems. Philosophically, caring for our joints through precise, glute-focused movement is a meditation on longevity and self-respect, a recognition that the body's value lies not only in its performance but in its capacity to sustain life and activity over decades. By choosing exercises that honor joint health while still challenging the glutes, we cultivate a form of resilience that is subtle, sustainable, and profoundly empowering, fostering a connection between intention, awareness, and bodily wisdom. Movement is never simply the contraction of muscles. It is a conversation between the nervous system, the musculoskeletal architecture, and the brain's intricate networks of coordination and feedback. The glutes, often underestimated in discussions of neurology, are in fact central players in this dialogue, influencing balance, gait, and the subtle adjustments that keep us upright and agile. With age, these neural pathways can weaken, not because the body has lost its capacity, but because habitual movement patterns often understimulate the gluteal region, allowing compensatory systems to take over and leaving the nervous system less attuned to the precise mechanics of hip extension, rotation, and stabilization. Targeted exercises such as hip thrusts, glute bridges, clamshells, and quadruped kickbacks do more than build strength. They provide rich sensory input to the brain, reinforcing motor patterns that are essential for coordinated, efficient movement. Each deliberate contraction sends signals through the spinal cord to motor centers, refining the timing, sequence, and intensity of muscular activation. Over time, this enhances proprioception, the body's innate sense of position in space, which becomes increasingly important as vision, reflexes, and other sensory inputs gradually decline. When the glutes fire effectively, the hips become stable anchors for movement, allowing the knees, ankles, and spine to move with reduced risk of misalignment or strain. This coordination is not automatic. It is cultivated through intentional practice, through exercises that isolate the glutes in ways that demand conscious engagement and precise alignment. There is a subtle but profound difference between simply performing a repetition and fully recruiting the glutes in harmony with surrounding muscles. Neural adaptation is a slow, cumulative process, requiring repeated, mindful engagement to strengthen connections between brain and muscle. By emphasizing controlled glute activation, we are not only building strength, but we are recalibrating the nervous system, teaching it to anticipate and respond to dynamic challenges in everyday life. This has tangible consequences: improved balance when stepping off a curb, better stability during sudden shifts in direction, more efficient walking patterns, and a reduced likelihood of falls or compensatory injuries. The nervous system thrives on specificity, and exercises that provide clear, targeted feedback create a foundation for both functional resilience and confident mobility. Philosophically, this process underscores a larger truth about aging: that strength is not merely physical, but emergent from the harmony of body and mind, from the dialogue between sensation, cognition, and action. To engage the glutes with precision is to honor this dialogue, to nurture pathways that sustain not just power, but stability, fluidity, and grace. It is a reminder that the body, even after decades of use, is capable of remarkable adaptation when approached thoughtfully, and that the pursuit of functional strength is inseparable from the cultivation of awareness, attention, and respect for the complex systems that carry us through every step of life. In practicing these movements, we awaken dormant connections, reinforce patterns that protect our joints and balance, and create an embodied intelligence that supports both daily function and long-term vitality. As we age, the act of exercising evolves from a pursuit of performance to a practice of awareness, and the choices we make about movement reflect not only our physical priorities but our understanding of life itself. The glutes, often overlooked in casual fitness routines, serve as more than mere engines of power. They are stabilizers, protectors, and silent narrators of our capacity to move with grace and safety. Choosing exercises that target these muscles deliberately becomes an expression of care, a recognition that strength is not solely measured by visible size or the weight we lift, but by the subtle ways our bodies carry us through space and time. Hip thrusts, bridges, clamshells, and quadruped kickbacks offer an opportunity to cultivate this strength intelligently, inviting the glutes to engage fully without compromising joints or overstressing compensatory structures. There is a quiet philosophical resonance here. In refining our approach to movement, we acknowledge the impermanence of the body while simultaneously affirming its remarkable ability to adapt and respond. Each contraction is a moment of presence, a way of honoring the decades of motion that have preceded us while laying the groundwork for decades yet to come. By focusing on gluteal activation, we support posture, balance, and functional mobility in ways that extend far beyond aesthetics or conventional strength metrics. This targeted practice enhances proprioception, teaching the nervous system to interpret signals of tension, alignment, and stability with precision, and in doing so, it cultivates a form of resilience that is both physical and cognitive. The exercises may appear simple, but their impact resonates through multiple systems, reinforcing coordination, joint integrity, and muscular synergy. In observing the body's response to such mindful practice, we begin to appreciate the subtle intelligence embedded within our physiology, the way fibers adapt, neural connections strengthen, and movement patterns evolve to sustain function over time. There is also a lesson in patience. Strength cultivated with intention is rarely immediate, yet it is enduring, supporting a lifetime of activity rather than a moment of impressive effort. This approach reframes what it means to exercise beyond 50, shifting the emphasis from repetition and load toward precision, awareness, and respect for the body's evolving capabilities. It reminds us that aging is not a decline to be feared, but a journey to be navigated with curiosity and care, where each movement has the potential to reinforce vitality, stability, and confidence. In committing to these glute-focused exercises, we do more than build muscle. We cultivate a philosophy of movement that values alignment, function, and well-being. The body becomes a living laboratory, revealing the interconnectedness of muscles, joints, and nervous system, and demonstrating that thoughtful, intentional practice can produce profound improvements in quality of life. By listening attentively to the signals of the body, selecting movements that honor its structure and potential, and engaging each contraction with mindful presence, we create a space where strength, stability, and grace are not only possible but inevitable, illustrating that the care we give to our glutes is a reflection of the care we give to ourselves, and that in this mindful, deliberate engagement, the process of aging itself can become a practice of intelligence, resilience, and deep, embodied appreciation for the life our bodies continue to carry forward.